So we'll get started. So my name is Bisa French. I am the chair of the Diversion Committee, and I'll pass it over for introductions to the co-chair, Robin Lipinski.
I'm Robin Lipinski, Public Defender.
Everybody else could jump in after that.
Cheryl Sede, Diversion Justice Coalition.
I'm Mike Pearson. I'm a private attorney.
Lynette Williams, Stand Together Contra Costa via the Public Defender's Office.
I see Jill. Did you go already, Jill?
Jill Ray, Supervisor Anderson's office.
Okay, and then I can't pronounce the first name, but last name of Bates.
It's me. I'm Emma Lowell. I'm a community member. Sorry, I wasn't sure. I should also be introducing myself, but hello all.
Hi. And then did Dr. Hernandez go already?
No, my name is Dr. Hernandez. I'm part of the Community Advisory Board and a commissioner for the county for the Commission of Women and Girls. So I look forward to listening in on your meeting.
All right. And last but not least, maybe? No. Well, we have Nicole.
Yeah, I'm one of the newer members of the ORJ department.
Okay. And Chris, who's our backbone.
All right, I'll take that. Chris James, here representing the W. Haywood Burns Institute.
Thank you. Welcome everybody to our first diversion meeting of the year. We'll have public comment if there's any public comment. I don't see any hands raised or any public comments. We'll move to item number 3 on our agenda, which is the approval of record of actions from the December 17th, 2020 Diversion Subcommittee meeting. Is there a motion to move? Is there a motion? I see Robin's making a motion and Cheryl is seconding that motion. And Nicole, you're going to call roll?
You're on mute, Nicole.
Sorry about that. Robin Lipinski,
Yes.
Bisa French,
Yes.
Michael Pearson,
Yes.
and Cheryl Sede.
Yes, and it looks like our DA is here.
Yeah, Dinah Beckton just joined. She's also a committee member.
Okay.
Is this on the minutes or?
Yes.
Yes, we're approving the last record.
Okay, then I say yes.
Okay,
Motion passed.
thank you, Nicole. Item number 4 on our agenda is to discuss the scheduling of diversion subcommittee meetings. So we've been having them on Thursdays from 3 to 5. I know during our large group meeting for the Oversight Board, we changed the meeting time. And so this is the time. And I know Cheryl also has a conflict with this time. So I'm not sure how to propose what time we do, because this is when it gets confusing in terms of looking at everyone's calendar. So I guess we could start with, does this day work? So this is the, what, third? Is it the third Thursday?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Third Thursday.
So this third Thursday work. We could start with that. And I see some yeses, yeses, yeses. What time do we want to do this meeting? So currently it's from 3 to 5. Do we want to move it up? I think the other meeting, did we do from 1 to 3, or what did we do for the last one?
What did we say, Christopher?
Yeah, I think we said 1 to 3. That's funny you were throwing to me because I figured you would make your plug now. Because I mean, you're an integral part of this and we want you to be here. So let everybody know.
I would like to make a motion that we move this meeting from we leave it on the third Thursday, but move it from to 1 to 3.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second it. I mean, does that work for everybody? Okay, I'll second. Nicole, do you want to do roll call?
Robin Lepetsky,
Yes.
Dinah Beekton,
Yes.
Lisa French,
Yes.
Michael Pearson,
Yes.
Cheryl Thudet.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Our meetings will now be the third Thursday of the month from 1 to 3.
Yay.
All right. We're just moving right along. Number 5 on the agenda, and we're not even 10 minutes in, huh?
Lisa, let me just jump in quick and say, I am going to be away for our next meeting. So can note that. I won't be here.
Okay, let me just look too, just make sure. I'll be here. All right, well, number 5 on the agenda is to provide overview of the work plan to the new members. So do we have any new members on here right now?
I'm a new member.
Okay, all right. I'm not sure if you had time to look over the meeting agenda with all the attachments. This is attachment number 2 in our documents. And basically it's the work plan that was developed early on, and it has the objectives, the activities, the team, and the deliverables, and the anticipated completion dates. I don't know if we should go over this one by one or not. If you've already reviewed it, I don't think we need to go over it one by one, but if there's any questions, or if anybody has any questions about it, or we want to revisit again, now's the time. Chris, you have anything on it?
Yeah, I would just say, I had clicked on it, so I wanted to make sure I wasn't on mute while I was talking to you guys. I would just say that our sort of priority objective right now is objective 2, developing separate recommendations for adult and youth populations as far as diversion. Hopefully we can come up with some that make sense and get the information that we need to develop good sound recommendations that will make a difference in diversion, and then move into, say, objective 3, right, ensuring the broadest possible pool of participants, making sure people aren't barred for prior justice involvement, objective 4. And 5 is about the school system in particular, which I remember there being a lot of discussion about early on. So definitely something that we want to get to. But because this is the Diversion Subcommittee, we know we really need to focus on developing a set of recommendations as far as how diversion should operate within the county. And that is our focus at the moment. That's, I think, a pretty decent overview of the work plan. All of the objectives have come from the recommendations that the Racial Justice Task Force initially made. And we will try our best. If it kills me, we are going to have some recommendations, hopefully within the year. I'm just gonna say that. I'm gonna say within the year, we want to come up with some recommendations. And that just means we need some level of information from agencies that we are gonna be interacting with to figure out what exactly is going on and what recommendations make the most sense. So. See a question.
I apologize. I am not familiar with the protocol for your meetings, but as a member of the public, could I ask a question? A clarifying question, or is?
So we normally discuss the item and then we allow time for public comment. However, I don't think that I did public comment on the other items. So I'm going to let Mr. Pearson, who is a member, go ahead first, and then we'll get to your clarifying question, Ms. Bates.
I just had a quick question on how the work is divided. I see that it had the lead and the team, but it didn't really break it down, how the work and each individual task is divided up amongst the members of the subcommittee. So that would be my kind of question, how is this going to be divvied up?
So currently, we've just all been working on all of the items. Just the last couple months, we've been trying to collect as much data and information on the diversion programs that are currently happening in the county. And so people throughout the committee have certain contacts or are involved in the programs. And so we've all been involved in just collecting the information collectively. As we drill down, there might be opportunities for us to split up work. But we have not. We talked about it early on between juvenile and adult diversion programs, but we haven't quite gotten there yet.
Yeah, and I would add, as we move along, we will gladly take volunteers to take, the lead on any particular item. If you feel like it's something that you could, do a lot of work on in between meetings and you want to take that on, we would welcome it for sure.
All right, any other questions from our committee members? All right, open it up for the public. Ms. Bates.
Thank you. I just had a clarifying question because as I begin interacting with more criminal legal reform organizations that are within Contra Costa County, I've come across different perspectives as to who might qualify for these diversion programs. And so I was seeking clarity around that. Is it only individuals who are facing certain types of charges, or is it open? Is it a case-by-case basis that people could qualify?
Robin moved up like she was going to talk, so I was like,
No, you can go, take it away.
okay. So right now we're just collecting, we've only collected the information on all the programs, whether, it didn't matter how people entered the programs. It's just we've gathered the information regarding the diversion programs throughout the county. I think part of our recommendations will include some of the information that you're asking about, but we haven't got there yet.
Yeah, there also may be statutory limitations for some of it as well, like which types of offenses, if you will, might be eligible and which might not. But
Yeah, I guess currently that, I do practice criminal law and I've done it quite a bit. It does depend on your charges. Everyone does not qualify diversion. There's a whole set of criteria and it just changed. And I guess there's going to be some more changes coming up to diversion and who qualifies. So there's a list of charges that would fall into that category.
All right. Any other discussion on the overview? Okay. Then I'm going to move on to the next item is number 6. We wanted to discuss inviting current diversion program staff to the meetings. And Chris, I know we talked about this. I don't remember what we said though, so take it away.
So along that line, I would just say I'll remind everyone that this is not something that came from me. This is something that was discussed in prior meetings, that it might be a good idea to to bring in staff from the current diversion programs that we have on the list that we compiled with the assistance of the ORJ, to get more information about how these programs operate, how youth or anyone, right, youth and adults are referred to them, just to figure out if there are any recommendations we would make based on those things, right? And how those things might be improved or made more equitable. So that was the sort of, as well as we know we want data, if we can get it, from even diversion programs, right? Who's attending or who's getting referred into diversion programs by race and ethnicity? What does that look like? It seems like a lot of the preliminary information we have is, oh, we don't really take that, or, you know, nobody's really on that. And so questions could be posed, right, if folks are able to attend meetings about what supports they might need or how we might be able to help, or what, at least getting a sense of what recommendations might help to sort of onboard those sort of processes so we can do our work. So I'm just reminding everyone that these are things that came out of the group. They're not coming from me. They sound like great ideas to me, but if, you know, the pleasure of the group has changed somehow, then, you know, that will be that. And Cheryl's hand is raised. So.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
It's because it came from me. And it came from me because I thought it was a good idea that if you invite these groups to come in and talk to us and talk to the public, that there is a better, if we have a better understanding of what they do and they have a better understanding of what we're seeking, there is an inherent buy-in, and there is also mutual understanding. And that is what I know that personally that I was seeking. That when we can talk to one another instead of around one another in making presumptions about what their program is or what we are seeking, then we can have that dialogue face to face. And then the public can also be free to ask the questions that maybe they don't know how to ask or afraid to ask, and then the presumptions about the programs are immediately erased, right? Because a lot of times these programs operate in the background and people just make these presumptions or assumptions, or, you know, and instead of letting them speak for themselves. And a lot of times that is what builds these relationships. And let's just face it, those programs need each one of you who are, whether you're public defender, whether you are law enforcement, whether you're DA's office, or they also need the people who are parenting the children who are coming through these systems. So they need us and we need them so that our children, our loved ones, our community members stay out of the system. So it's a symbiotic relationship, but that symbiotic relationship has problems if we're not talking to each other. So that's where I was coming from, is that let's have an open communication, a dialogue where we're actually looking, and even though we're not in the same room, we're looking at each other's squares, as it were, in Zoom, and we're having this kind of conversation and understanding each other. That's where it was coming from. Nicole, I'm switching phones.
Thank you, Cheryl, for revisiting that. So I recall from looking at the list of diversion programs and trying to get additional information when we were contacting different diversion programs to get additional information, that the core of most of the diversion programs either came from probation a lot, or the DA's office, people that actually are here on the committee. So there are several of us here that have diversion programs. And then the other, there were also additional ones that when contacted, we weren't able to get. Well, my personal experience when I was trying to contact people, I didn't receive a lot of information or callback about some of the other programs that were listed, but I think it was more of referral programs. So while they were a service provider for diversion, maybe if somebody had to, do a certain, service, then they were referred to still through one of our core like partners, being probation or DA's office, or even the public defender's office, maybe, I don't know. So we have a lot of information already right here. So I think we would need to go over the list to see who else that's not included that we would want to include. Anybody else have any recommendations on how we can, possibly get everybody at the table to have that discussion? Or do we even want to have it all in one meeting? I mean, we might want to break this up because there are several different, programs.
I would think it would be a good idea to at least break it up between juvenile and adult. If not even beyond that, to maybe on the adult side, maybe between the probation department and DA's office. I don't know. I don't know what makes sense, but I don't think we could do it all in one session. That would be a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I like the idea of having people come in and explain their programs.
Any other feedback? Do we want to go through the list and see who that would actually include and then figure out how we would make that ask of them?
Yeah, and I would love to, as we do that, if folks know that they have relationships with the staff at a particular program, just to let that be known. So Mr. Pearson was sort of talking about individuals taking this would be a perfect time to have some folks step up and say, I actually know the person who runs this program or who works at this particular program. I can reach out to them and see what their availability is over the next month or two or whatever. So it'd be great.
So in looking at the diversion list, the first program says youth legal system. And I think that is actually comes out of juvenile probation. We don't have a representative from probation today.
No, that would probably just be our office right now. And I'm certainly happy to reach out to Melvin or even John Ibrahimi to see if they can, send a representative that can speak to it, and for maybe our next month's meeting or the meeting after that.
Okay.
And BC, you said that was for youth, right?
Yes, it says youth legal system.
Okay.
Lisa, I think youth legal system is just the heading for all of the different juvenile programs we identified.
Okay.
So it would be informal probation would be the probation department. Right?
Right.
The first two there, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. The first two, say probation. And this Start Smart, is that also part of the informal probation? Is that just one of the programs? Did we identify that as just one of the programs that probation refers to?
I think so.
Smart Reentry is our grant project for transitional age youth.
Smart Start was one that it's with CHP and it's about driving. So it's just like recommended that probation sends kids to. It's not really diversion.
Okay.
Yeah, Denise, that's a different thing.
Okay.
This is Start Smart. It's a California Highway Patrol program.
Got it. I'm sorry. I misheard.
The next page, there's pre-charge restorative justice diversion programs. Dinah, is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I'm sure you're willing to go over your programs one day at one.
Yeah, I think if it's on for next month's agenda, I think that would be okay. Either I can be here or we'll get our unit supervisor for juvenile to be present, or Venus. But I can present on the restorative justice program. Let me think. And I guess the other thing we want to at least touch on is our Reimagine Youth Justice as well. The kind of overall thought process around that. So we could do both of those.
Okay, thank you. VORP, Victim Offender Reconciliation Program. Anybody familiar with that? Voluntary program for young people in the juvenile justice system who are willing to work with their victims towards a process of restoration.
I have no idea what that is, but it is part of the concept for our youth diversion program because it is a restorative justice model. I'm not sure if that's meant to be the same thing.
I would
Hi,
check
it's
in with them.
Khadijah. I've heard of Vogue. It is an actual program, but I didn't know that it was operating in Contra Costa.
Okay, maybe it's just something we collected, but I don't know. I'm not familiar.
I've never heard of it in Contra Costa.
Robin shaking her head no also. So we'll cross that one off the list for now. Richmond Police Department, of course, I'd be willing to talk about our program or have somebody come and talk about it. And then also the program with RISE, and I could work with Stephanie on that program. When I contacted the parent education department at Mount Diablo, they said that they don't have diversion, they just provide classes. So I guess they're just referred. People are referred from probation or other places. So I'm not sure we would be able to get a representative to come from there. Anybody else familiar with the programs from Mount Diablo Adult Education? Quiet bunch. This is the difficulties with Zoom.
You know, that came from, I think, your former member that has rotated off the group. She was from Mount Diablo.
Okay.
So she probably would be happy to come back and talk about it, I would imagine, or know who would.
Okay. Who was that? I could reach out.
Denise, what's her name?
I'm blanking on it. I have it. I will let you know, Bisa. Sorry. I can see your face. I'm having a moment.
I know.
Was it Deborah from?
Yes,
Yeah.
Deborah.
I was thinking Debbie, but then I don't know.
Deborah.
Yeah.
Someone has her contact information. I'd be willing to.
I'll forward it to you.
Thank you. And then COPE, Family Support Center. Bueller. Anybody familiar with this program?
I know that COPE, they're one of the referrals for the courts. So I know that it's one of the, for diversion for different programs and domestic violence classes and things like that, it's a provider of those services. So I don't know a contact over there, but I'm familiar with the program.
I'm just going to put a question mark by that one for right now. So that's for the youth services. Now the adult ones, there's pretrial felony mental health diversion.
I'm sorry, I just looked up COPE and it's Contra Costa County Office of Ed. So Lynn Mackey or Becky would probably know about COPE.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to reach out to either of those people?
I can do that, Bisa. I work with both of them on various other committees, so I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, Denise. All right, the pretrial felony mental health diversion, AB 1810.
So I can have our attorney who's assigned to that unit come and talk about that program. It's a lot of different service providers, so it's not just one program. But she could talk about the process, and there's also an attorney in Dinah's office who works, the two of them work together in the diversion program. So between the two of us, I'm sure we could get something together for that, but it wouldn't be for the next meeting if you're relying on me for that, because I'm not going to be here.
Okay,
Agreed.
so we can say April.
And it occurred to me that when we do the restorative justice diversion, sorry to go back on this, but it just occurred to me that I will probably want to partner with RISE Youth Center because they also have a part in our diversion program. And it would be good to hear from them what happens on their end.
Stephanie's still on this committee, right?
I believe so, but I didn't see her on the call today, but
Yeah,
she's still on.
okay. All right, so maybe we can try to shoot for doing the juvenile programs next month in March, and then the adult programs in April. Does that work?
I can certainly reach out and let you know as soon as I can. So
Sounds good to me.
All right. And we have the Penal Code 1000 for drug offenses. Anybody familiar with that?
So I don't think there's much going on in that arena these days, but Dinah, do you know?
Can't get my, okay, so I don't think that there's much going on either, especially with the loss of the funding for treatment and all of that. So I'm not really, I know that it's there and it's on the books, but first of all, there's no specialty court any longer for that diversion. So if there are any cases in the system, I'm not aware of them.
And there's no one program in any event. So if someone were placed on that type of diversion, they would just be ordered probably to complete some NA meetings or something along those lines. I don't think there's a whole lot that we could learn on that front.
Okay, the next one might be yours. DA Becton is the district attorney approved misdemeanor diversion.
Yes, I can take that one.
Okay. Next one's a Long Acre diversion.
That's not a program.
That's not a program. Oh, sorry. That's just a made up thing.
Okay, military diversion program. Do we have it?
Yes, we do.
Is that Veterans Court?
I think it is. Yep.
Okay. I mean, I guess the best source would be Judge Brady, but I know in my office we do have an attorney that staffs that program as well.
And
but,
so we. Okay.
One of you guys want to make contact with your folks to try to do a presentation on that?
I think Judge Brady would be best. Myself, I mean, she is the judge who really pulled the whole thing together. Sure, I can take that.
Thank you. Corrective Solutions Community Accountability Program. A pre-filing diversion program for low-level offenses. Anybody familiar?
What was it called again?
Corrective Solutions Community Accountability.
Oh yeah, that's going to be encompassed in my presentation about misdemeanor and low-level offense diversion. It'll be part of it.
Okay. Neighborhood courts. Do we have those, Judge Becton?
Kind of, sort of. We have the funding. We haven't been able to hire yet, but I think we're getting close. I'm happy to report on them, but they're not yet operational. And I don't know how COVID is going to affect them either.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, I have this adult legal system, behavioral health court.
So I can have the attorney who talks about the mental health diversion also talk about behavioral health court.
I think that's it.
There's also a new misdemeanor diversion. It's a judicial diversion. I don't know that there's anything new to report on it at this point. It's brand new. The courts are supposed to be coming up with some kind of protocols for it, but we haven't seen anything yet. So, but if something develops on that front before the April meeting, we could include that as well.
Okay. All right, then we will plan to, so I guess this needs a vote. So I think we've already agreed that it would be a good idea for us to have the partners come in and talk about, or the different programs come in to talk about their diversion programs. So is there a motion, I guess, is there a motion to have the diversion partners come and talk about their programs for juvenile probation in March and adult in April? Does somebody want to make?
Dinah Beck and so moves.
Okay, thank you. And Robin seconded, thank you. Nicole?
Robin Lepetsky,
Yes.
Dinah Beckton,
Yes.
Lisa French,
Yes.
Misha Walker,
Yes.
Michael Pearson,
Yes.
Cheryl Sudik. Cheryl, you're muted.
She said she can't talk right now, but I thought I heard a yes.
No, I said yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Any public comment? All right, I don't see any public comment, any hands raised. Number 7, discuss working draft of diversion recommendations, and that's attachment number 4 in our packet. There's 3 recommendations on there right now. Chris, were you going to go over those ones?
Yeah. So this is, you guys may also remember that we had a conversation way back in 2020 now, where I said, even though we don't know a lot, and obviously we want to have the meetings that you all just voted to have to find out a lot more information about the current diversion program offerings in the county. We know a few things, right, that would lead to some pretty basic, but still really necessary recommendations that we could make now. Now, obviously, we wouldn't be submitting these recommendations now, but there's no reason that we could not come up with a draft with some recommendations in it that we're going to revise and add to as we continue to gather information here. So basically, I drafted this around sort of 3 main issues or ideas that we can identify based on what we do know. Number 1 is that we would want to see more diversion programs that are community led, right? Housed in community-based organizations or other community facilities, as opposed to being housed sort of within a system, offices, agencies, so on and so forth. The next, that Contra Costa County geographically is a pretty big place, and that we would want diversion programs to be equitably distributed throughout the county, right? We don't want anyone to need to travel across county and for that to be a barrier for them participating. And so we want, to the extent that programming is needed in the various regions of the county, that programming to be there in a relatively sort of nearby location so that folks can get to and from any appointments or attend any programs or classes and whatnot, and not end up in the system because they couldn't attend or because they didn't make a meeting or had trouble completing due to attendance. And the last one, something that I already sort of referred to earlier, right, is we would want diversion programs to collect and report race ethnicity data. We need to know who, if we're the racial justice oversight body, we need to know who by race and ethnicity is attending or getting the opportunity to attend diversion programs. And then under that, the sub bullets just kind of speak to some of the things that, that some of the implications of the recommendations, which might need recommendations themselves at some point in the future, right? Like, so for number one, this would require engaging local CBOs, which may not currently be involved with diversion, to see what interest and capacity they have for potentially, being onboarded in a process like that. And support in terms of bringing them up to speed and being able to do that, right? Like if there's an organization that does not currently do diversion, but would be an ideal sort of community-based organization to one day house a diversion program, there's going to need to be some level of training, some level of support for them to get to the point where they could do that, right? We don't want to just say, here, kids, just go to this place where they haven't maybe done much youth development work, or they're not really equipped to handle a diversion program. We want to make sure that we're providing folks with the opportunity, with the resources that they need, the support that they need to succeed with that. With the distribution, one of the ways to do that is getting location data. That's why we asked for it in terms of who's coming into the system, right? It's not to target people or certain locations, but to get a sense of where is there a need. And so how do we partner with someone in that particular geographic area to create something, that people can be referred to in that area as needed. And the same thing with the data, right? Obviously, we've talked a lot. You guys have heard me say a lot: race, ethnicity, gender, geography, offense, as well as outcome, right? Because we're going to want to know who's completing and who's not completing by race and ethnicity in these programs. There would be potentially more questions to ask if there are trends there in terms of completion and not. And figuring out what support agencies would need or diversion programs would need in order to collect that information and to report it in a way that we can use. So that is essentially what that working draft is about, and that's just based on the relatively minimal information that we have right now, but things that we know that in terms of trying to promote racial equity and diversion, we're going to want.
Thank you. Chris, is there any discussion about the recommendations that are on there, or anything that Chris just explained to us? Open it up for discussion or entertain a motion. If people want to accept this document as is so far and move forward. Is
Do
there
we need one? This is a document that we're going to continue to change. So I don't know. I'm not sure, but I don't know if we need a motion at the moment. Like there's more to come. It could be something that it should be something that we come back to periodically and update and change. So.
Okay, I just said vote on the agenda, so I mean.
Yeah, just the lesson I learned the hard way in helping with these is I try to, just in case something does need to come to a vote, I just kind of try to always put that on the agenda so that we're not limited to, we can only discuss this now, and the next meeting we can vote because you didn't say vote on the agenda. So that's why I put it there.
Okay, I agree. I don't necessarily think we need to vote on it now, especially since this is going to be a changing document. So I like what's outlined already. I appreciate the work that you did on this, Chris. And I'll open it up to any other discussion. Anybody not like anything on here or just think something needs to be changed right away? All right, then I think that we'll just continue to work on this. And this is kind of the first draft of our recommendations, and that's it.
Did you want to take any public comment on it? There may be.
I'll take public comment. Yes, is there public comment on the document?
Not that there had to be, just wanted to make sure you had the opportunity. It's all good.
Thank you for reminding me. All right.
I did have a question from the ORJ's office about the definition of diversion.
Mhm.
I don't know if this is the right forum to discuss this, but about we've amended it and we've voted on it. What do we do with it now? Do we send it out or just date it when it was approved or?
Yeah, we're not sure of the process for amendments is basically what this boils down to. And so at the meeting, the full oversight body meeting, it was approved with that nice amendment, and that was great. But I made the corrections in the document with a note that said that it was amended. But what do we do with it now, I guess? And so it's a more procedural question than anything. If somebody could assist with that, otherwise just know that we have the latest version of the document.
I don't know procedurally, but it would be nice if we maybe included it in our next agenda package as our finalized diversion definition so that we're all clear about what it is. And
okay, more it doesn't need to be voted on because it's already been voted on. It can just be an FYI. Okay, yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
And I would add, I thought, and you guys will have to, correct me on this, but I thought the obviously, we did that work within this committee on that because we wanted to matter and to mean something to the extent that it can in the county. And so I thought the conversation was around potentially submitting it to the Board of Supervisors for adoption or something of that sort, so that it carries some level of weight. I don't know if that is the right thing to do or if anything like that has ever been done before, but I think something along that line was the proposed or discussed, at least as far as I remember it, next step.
Wouldn't it be part of our recommendations? Just as our recommendation for how diversion should be approached in the county? I don't see the Board of Supervisors voting on a definition of diversion. If that's what you, I'm not sure I understood.
I think that makes sense. And so it sounds like what we're saying is now that we've done that part, perhaps we leave it until we finalize the rest of the recommendations and then they go up to the county.
I think so. Jill, I don't know if you want to weigh in on this question about how it should be approached for the board.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as you all were talking, and it seems to me that this would be something that would be included in an annual report, recommending that all the different agencies who work with diversion sort of accept it as their definition as well. But individually coming from the subcommittee or the full committee, I'm not sure the timing on that, how that would work.
Ms. Bisa, I also think that it was not just for the board. I thought this was also for the public, right? So that we were clear that we are all speaking the same language when it comes to diversion, right? That we had one definition that we had agreed on, that what diversion was and what it was not. So I think that that's also where this was going to be utilized.
Okay, I see Tamisha has her hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chief. I'm thinking when I'm thinking about this definition of diversion, I'm also just thinking about the JJCC and how we also have an intervention and prevention subcommittee that also worked on a definition of diversion and how I mean, I think I mentioned this last year at the end of the year in a couple meetings that it would be nice to understand if we're all in alignment on what diversion means. Because when I think about this, I don't think about it as just like an understanding between us and institutions, but also an understanding when RFPs are going forward or when people are applying for funding to do diversion in the city, that they're understanding that they're doing diversion, that it's under the basis of these particular definitions. And then I also just have a lot of questions around logistically because, you know, the courts and probation and the district attorney, I think like, will everybody understand this definition from, you know, all points of contact to the system is like, this is what we mean. And so I guess I'm just wondering if, yeah, so I'm rambling now, but I'm just thinking about all the definitions that's gone forward around diversion. Do they match up and will they impact the system overall, including funding, but also how the courts move around diversion, how the DA's office move around diversion, including other departments?
You.
One other thought, it's Tanisha and Cheryl, and because I do think that is important, and that there is a unified message of what diversion means for all of those same reasons that Tanisha just pointed out. So I'm wondering if, Chris, I don't know how often you go to the PPC, but if this is something that maybe should just go to the PPC to have them review and make recommendations on next steps with where this should go, because I do think that this is important to sort of unify the idea of diversion in our county across the board. And the PPC for the new members is the Public Protection Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Board of Supervisors.
Madam Chair, this is Dinah. I have a question as well. I guess it's sort of along the lines of what Tamisha mentioned, but I started thinking about who our audience, when we talked about having all of these presentations from all of the various diversion programs, it made me wonder aloud who our audience is. Like, is it just for us, or is it more that we wanted to educate? Are we trying to educate our committee only, or are we trying to educate the community more? And if our goal is more towards the community, then we might consider, instead of having those presentations during our regular meeting, having them at a time when they're more accessible to the public, so in the community. But it's just a question because I didn't know if we had talked about who we're really wanting to have or receive this information.
Thank you. My understanding was we wanted to receive the information from the various programs so that we can make informed recommendations, so that we can understand the programs that are happening, and so that we can make the recommendations based on what's already happening. I could be wrong though, because I don't think we ever actually discussed it. That was just my personal understanding.
Okay. No, thanks. That is a good clarification for me.
Right, and are we measuring, like, is our definition a measuring stick for existing diversion, but also gaps in diversion services?
Yeah, I think our diversion guidelines, from my perspective, I thought those were the definition were going to be what we use as guidelines to make our recommendations. So we want our diversion programs to, fit all the criteria that we listed in the definition. And so we were keeping that as kind of our guidelines for our recommendations. But I could be wrong if somebody else has a different understanding, or please feel free to speak.
Ms. French, did the window of public comment close? I'm trying
No,
to speak.
no, we haven't started public comment on this part yet.
Okay, it was,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was actually seeking clarity on, I tried to raise my digital hand in time, but I don't think it was seen in time, but I was seeking clarity on the diversion programs rather than the definition of diversion, which Nicole was broached. Can I ask a clarifying question on diversion programs? You had opened up public comment and then we kind of morphed into a new conversation.
I'm sorry, go ahead, yes.
It's a quick question. These different diversion programs that are in the attachment on the agenda, are they diversion programs that currently exist in Contra Costa County that folks are trying to strengthen, or are they diversion programs that do not exist and are trying to be adopted?
So from our conversation, it sounds like some no longer exist. As we went through them, I heard a couple people say, well, that one doesn't exist anymore. So what we did in the beginning was compile just all the different diversion programs that we knew existed within the county. And so that's the list that we just went over. So some of them are no longer in existence. And there might be some out there that we just don't know about that we didn't include in our list.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so going back to this conversation about the definition and what we actually want to do with the definition, I heard several different things, and I'm actually just, and it's not up for vote. This was, I'm not sure where we want to end with it. I definitely think we should include it in our next agenda package so that we're clear about what was finalized. But in terms of what everyone else's input and about this document being public and making sure it gets out there, making sure that it's, the document that is used to evaluate, for funding and for other reasons. I'm not sure how we move in that direction.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
wondering if Jill's suggestion around moving it to the PPC for review, and I mean, is it necessary to have this be adopted by the county as the definition for diversion for all institutions involved in the criminal?
I don't know county system, so I don't know.
I was just wondering if Jill could, if that's what she was getting at, and if so, is it possible at the next meeting to vote to send it to the PPC for that process?
Yeah, that's what I was sort of coming around to, I think, Tamisha, is that it would be a good idea to have a unified definition of diversion for all the reasons that you stated, for, development of new programming and RFPs and RFQs and funding sources and grants and that sort of thing. If we had a sorry, I've got a 3-year-old in my car with me. If we had a standardized definition, I think it's helps everybody to kind of be clear, as well as the community.
All right, so I think what I'm hearing is we want to put it on our next agenda to possibly vote on to send it to the PPC. Does that sum it up? All right.
That's what I understand. We'll make sure that happens.
Thank you. That's the end of our agenda for today. Unless anybody else has anything for the good of the order.
I could hold up the meeting, but I won't now.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You're right on time. Right on time.
Nah,
right on time. They just walked in
right
and I
on
get to
time.
go.
Thank you,
Right
Keith.
on time and I get to go. Doctor's coming in. Thank you so much.
All right. The next meeting is going to be a longer one, so don't expect the 1 hour. We're going to.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much, you guys.
Okay. See you all.
Take care. Take care.